The night the child was left to die. The snow was falling so quietly, it felt like the world itself was holding its breath. Imagine this for a moment. A tiny girl, no older than 6, standing in the dark with numb fingers wrapped around the leash of a shivering puppy, watching a luxury car disappear into a white, endless road. She didn't scream, she didn't cry. She just waited, because her father had promised he'd come back. That single promise, whispered through a rolled-down window, was all that kept her standing as the cold began to bite deeper than fear. Stay with this story until the end, because what happened next didn't just save a life. It shattered a lie about power, wealth, and what it truly means to be human. The man who drove away was rich, powerfully rich. The kind of man whose name opened doors, silenced questions, and erased mistakes. To the world, he was respected. To his daughter, he was once everything. But that night, something inside him had hardened. A scandal, an inheritance battle, whispers that the child wasn't really his, whatever the truth was. It led him to believe abandonment was easier than responsibility. He stopped the car near a deserted mountain road, handed the girl a coat that was too thin for the storm, and tied the puppy's leash around her wrist. "Wait here," he said, his voice calm, practiced. "I'll be right back." The red tail lights vanished, and with them, warmth, safety, and trust. The little girl pressed her face into the puppy's fur as the wind howled, her small body shaking, her hope slowly freezing into silence. Minutes stretched into hours. The puppy whimpered, trying to lick her frozen hands, digging weakly into the snow as if instinct alone knew they were in danger. The girl's thoughts drifted in and out. Memories of warm kitchens, bedtime stories, her father's laugh before it turned cold. Just when her knees buckled and the world began to blur, a distant sound cut through the storm. Not the wind, not thunder. Footsteps, heavy, deliberate footsteps crunching through snow. Headlights flickered through the trees, then stopped. A tall figure emerged, moving fast, controlled, scanning the darkness like someone trained to find life where others see none. He was a Navy SEAL on leave, driving through the mountains to clear, his head after years of missions that never left him. Something had told him to slow down. Something had told him to stop. When he saw the child collapse into the snow, the soldier in him vanished, replaced by something far more urgent. He dropped to his knees, ripping off his gloves, wrapping her in his own heavy jacket without hesitation. Hey, you're safe now," he whispered, though he didn't know if she could hear him. The puppy barked weakly as the man scooped them both into his arms, his breath steady even as his heart raced. In that frozen moment, a stranger chose to care when a father had chosen to abandon. By the time they reached the nearest hospital, the girl was barely conscious. Doctors rushed her away, warming her body inch by inch, while the SEAL sat in the hallway, the puppy curled on his boot, refusing to move. Hours later, a nurse told him the child would live, but only because someone found her when he did. The words hit him harder than any battlefield truth. He stayed, he waited. He learned her name, Lily. He learned how she clutched the puppy, Max, even in sleep. And when authorities began searching for the father, the SEAL already knew the answer to the question no one had asked yet. If no one else stepped forward, he would. Time passed, but the story didn't end. The father was found, dragged into court by public outrage once the truth surfaced. His wealth couldn't buy back what he had done. He stood in a suit that cost more than most homes, staring at a photo of his daughter wrapped in a soldier's jacket. And for the first time, his power meant nothing. Lily never asked about him. She didn't need to. She had already learned the difference between someone who gives life and someone who protects it. Years later, Lily would run through a backyard filled with laughter instead of snow. Max, older but still loyal at her side. The Navy SEAL, now simply Dad to her, watched from the porch, understanding something the world often forgets. Family isn't defined by blood or money, but by who shows up when everything is falling apart. If this story touched your heart, remember this feeling. Stay kind, stay human, and never underestimate how one moment of courage can change an entire lifetime.